It is now my great honor to introduce a very special guest who will be speaking before our VFW National Convention for the first time. He served our nation honorably as a United States Senator from the state of Delaware from 1973 to 2009, where he would eventually chair the Senate Judiciary Committee and then the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He was also well known to be tough on crime and even tougher on domestic violence. He considers Violence Against Women Act as the most significant piece of legislation that he crafted in his 36 years in office. Today, his position enables he and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, to tour the country and abroad to shake the hands and just be with our magnificent military and their families. And as our guest has so well stated, they do it just to say thank you. And as proud Blue Star parents of an Iraqi war veteran themselves, their handshakes and their hugs truly come from the heart. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, the 47th Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you all very much. And I apologize for my back to you all. Honor the dead by helping the living. That's not only your motto, but that's what you've been all about. That's what my guys and women from Delaware have been about from the time I was introduced to them in the middle of another war, Vietnam. Like you, like them, I know that our nation has but one truly sacred obligation. We have many obligations as a nation, but only one truly sacred obligation, and that is to prepare and equip those whom we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they come home. Over 111 years, from San Juan Hill to the Argonne Forest, from Midway to Incheon, from Way City to Kuwait City, from the Korengal Valley to the Sunni Triangle, VFW members have fought for our country on both the front lines and the home front. You and your predecessors helped establish the Department of Veterans Affairs and build a national cemetery system. You worked to secure a better future for service members and their families by helping pass 2 GI bills. You've spoken out time and again on behalf of the 2.2 million members, ranks that continue to swell, and for all those who have fought in America's wars. This work, your work, and this is not hyperbole, this work and your work has never been more important than this very day. Over the past decade, our military embarked on a longer period of sustained combat than any time in all of American history. More than 2 million service members have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, more than half of whom have returned to civilian life with the honored title of veteran. While the Iraq War winds down, our troops continue to take the fight to our enemies in Afghanistan. That's where al-Qaeda plotted and trained to launch the devastating attack on 9/11. Our forces there are now in the able hands of one of the finest generals, David Petraeus, a great warrior, a strategist, and a friend, who you are honoring this week with the Eisenhower Award. Afghanistan poses different and unique problems and daunting challenges, including a local population scarred by more than 3 decades of war, plagued by illiteracy, crushing poverty, and rampant corruption. The country's harsh terrain It was one of the least hospitable in all of the world, as other countries over centuries can tell you. I've seen it firsthand, including 2 years ago, when a sudden snow squall, when I was with General Rodriguez, forced our helicopter to land between two jagged peaks, 9,000 feet above sea level, on a road not much wider than the width of our roto blades, with a descent on one side of about 1,800 feet and another 900. And the next mountain range less than a mile away. They're just jagged pieces of rock. And that's where the 10th Mountain Division, that's where the 1st Cav, that's where these kids have had to climb with 60 pounds of gear or more and engage Al-Qaeda. These kids, they're not kids, these women and men, they are fierce warriors. And they are now in one of the most fierce terrains in all the world. But after too many years of neglect, we finally now have clearly defined a strategy backed by the resources needed to implement it. And we are making measurable progress on the overarching goal we have in Afghanistan: to disrupt, to dismantle, and to defeat Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan. In order to do this, we must deny Al-Qaeda safe haven, and we must reverse the Taliban's momentum as we strengthen the capacity of Afghan security forces and the government so they can begin the long, painful process of assuming, over time, ultimate responsibility for their country's future. We cannot want peace and security in Afghanistan more than they want it. Nearly all the additional personnel, when we took office, there were fewer than 30,000 personnel there. This month, we've ramped up to 100,000 American forces and about 10,000 new troops and trainers provided by our allies for the International Security Assistance Forces. General Petraeus now, only now, has all the resources and the strategy called for. So all this talk about the inability to succeed is premature. Only now, this month, has General Petraeus finally gotten what the military told the President and me they need to succeed in that mission. And General Petraeus is working tirelessly. I might add, he made a great sacrifice. All of you who are military know, going from being CENTCOM commander back to operational commander in Afghanistan was a sacrifice. And in a technical way, a step down from commanding all of Central Command to focusing only on Afghanistan. But it is the most intractable problem we face, and it needed the best general we have. And we now have it. So folks, don't buy into we have failed in Afghanistan. We now are only beginning with the right general and the right number of forces to seek our objectives. General Petraeus is working tirelessly to strengthen the Afghan security force, and it is a daunting undertaking. And to take insurgents on in regions where they have run roughshod for too long. This effort is being complemented by an unprecedented surge of civilian diplomats and technical experts. And our ambassador, by the way, who was a former commander in Afghanistan, a 3-star general, General Carl Eikenberry, a warrior in his own right. He is working every single day, pushing the Afghan government to step up its efforts to tackle corruption and devise a plan for reintegration of the portion of the Taliban that's ready to accept the Afghan constitution. As General Petraeus has said, we will assess the progress in December and began a responsible, conditions-based transition to Afghan security leadership on a province-by-province basis in July of 2011. Everybody says, is that an end date? It is not. We are not leaving in 2011. We are beginning the transition. And why the date? The date is important to make as important to the Iraqis because we wanted to make clear to them they must step up. They must exercise sovereignty if they're ever going to prevail. And also was stated as a goal that we should strive for. In the meantime, our thoughts and prayers remain with those troops still serving in harm's way, and we'll continue to give them the resources they need to succeed. But as you know better than anyone, providing for our service members overseas is only where our responsibility begins, not where it ends. That's why our administration has embarked on one of the largest, most comprehensive programs in American history to support our returning veterans, their families, long after their military service is over. President Obama trusted another great warrior, General Eric Shinseki. Some of you probably served under General Shinseki. He charged him with transforming the Department of Veterans Affairs to meet the new and different needs of the 21st century. If we could hold a second here, one of the things I want to point out, I have visited the Burn Center in Fort Bliss. We have all the wounded warriors who come over, multiple amputees to our home for Thanksgiving dinner. We spend Christmas. This is a different war, folks. They're a different set of injuries. There's a different imperative. We have to adjust to what it is so we don't make the mistakes we have made as a nation with past generations of warriors. We're providing General Shinseki with the resources to do exactly that, build a 21st century response. Even while freezing most discretionary spending in the budget, we have given the VA one of the biggest budget increases they've had in 30 years. As your adjutant can tell you, $16 billion this year. For a total of over $114 billion. We follow that up with a request for another increase next year of another $11 billion on top of that. We do that because the need is real. The need is apparent, and the need requires an obligation to meet it. I know I hear some voices, and we'll hear voices. We'll continue to hear them who say, in these tough economic times, how can we so incredibly increase that money? Well, I say to those voices, whether or not we keep the promise to our veterans will say more about who we are as a nation than anything else we will do. So on behalf of a grateful nation, I thank all of our troops and all of you here today for giving life to those words and for sacrificing so much for our country. May God bless you all. May God bless America. And may God, most of all, protect our troops. Thank you for having me.